Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and this, of course, is a Wednesday, and we're here at 8 p.m. on the dot to start this show, which we hope to go on till 10 p.m. this evening. I'm delighted to be here once again with you, and this is the first show after, of course, we took a brief break over the Culturama season. We're now back, and we have a lot to talk about this evening. I want to say good evening to all of my family and friends, all the people, of course, who listen to this show, who are part of this show because they listen every Wednesday and have in some cases, have listened for many, many years. I want to thank them for listening and for being a part of the show and for calling in from time to time and sharing their thoughts and their own concerns and comments as we try to make our Nevis and our St. Kitts and Nevis a better place. I'm delighted that those who have listened span the globe now with the power of the internet. There are many who are here in the Caribbean, certainly here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but of course in the Caribbean as well, and farther afield we have in the United States and Canada, we have in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. And I want to say good evening to all of you wherever you are. It is a rainy night here in Nevis. We're happy for the rain. As you know, we've not had the best conditions for rain in the past, say, 6 months. So we're delighted that now the rain seem to be coming again, and we're happy for that, and we thank God for his mercies. We have some sad news tonight because this morning I woke to the very sad news that a lady who was very dear to me, like a mother to me, Lornette Brown of Brownhill, had passed away. Lornette Brown, Lornette Thompson, some may know as Lornette Thompson, some know as Lornette Brown, but I think all who knew her loved her. She was a wonderful human being. She was somebody who loved people, someone who didn't trouble a soul or hurt a fly. And she was someone, I think, who was loved by all. She certainly leaves to mourn her children. I want to send my condolences to all of her children, to Susie, to Lisa, of course, to Lydia, to Londa or Tasha, as we call her, to Sylvester, to Rhonda, and certainly, of course, to her twin sister, Pat. I know she has other siblings, but I think she leaves to mourn her twin sister. It is particularly difficult, I'm sure, for Pat, being the twin, and I know how close they were. All the family members, I'm sure, are in shock and in mourning. Lornette had not been well, and she was hospitalized. And while the family was making arrangements for her to try to get a specialist care elsewhere, unfortunately she succumbed. And so I want to take an opportunity to extend my very, very deep condolences to the family. I want to let them know that I'm praying for them, and that they're in my thoughts. I want them to know that all of Nevis is praying for them, and that they are in our thoughts. I want them to know that the people of Brownhill in particular are praying for them, and that they are in the thoughts of the good people of Brownhill. Wherever you are, family members, know that the prayers of the multitude will comfort you in your hour of bereavement. And while nobody can tell you that they know how you feel, because everybody grieves for themselves, everybody has to grieve for his or herself, I think that people, good people with empathy, will seek to say to you that they are there for you. Maybe it's just a shoulder to cry on, maybe it's just somebody to hug, maybe someone to talk to. But know that we are here for you, and we will continue to be here for you. Lornette was a wonderful woman, a woman who loved people, a woman who loved her God. And she served God faithfully for many, many years as a Jehovah's Witness. And I pray that her soul may rest in eternal peace. To the family, from my family, and from all of us here at Von Radio, we extend our very, very deepest sympathies to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's never easy to start a show on such a sad note, particularly for me, when it's so very, very close to home. But death is always with us. It is said that from the moment we are born, we start to die. And because death is always with us, it makes us wonder sometimes why it is that we spend so much of our lives, so much of our time on earth, the time alive that is given to us, seeking to cause hurt and injury and damage and destruction to other people. It is always for me a marvel that human beings spend so much time being malicious, seeking to vilify each other, seeking to destroy each other. And at the end of the day, death, that inevitable end, awaits us all. It is certainly a destination that we have to reach. It is certainly a journey that all of us will take. It is something that awaits us all. And if we understand that death awaits us all, it behooves us, therefore, to use our time here on earth to try to do the best that we can. We cannot all be great at everything, but we can be great at that which we put our minds to, and that which we decide is our calling. And I think that it would be a wonderful thing if our people would seek to spend our time lifting up each other and lifting up themselves. Oftentimes, you know, they spend so much time attacking someone else, peeping over in their neighbor's yard to see their neighbor's new car or their neighbor's house or what the neighbor is eating for dinner tonight, that they forget to cook something for themselves. They forget to build themselves because they're preoccupied with watching their neighbor. And I'm saying that we ought to use the limited time that we have. And it is limited. It is certainly limited. I myself have just turned 50. And I commented to someone the other day that if the biblical admonition is true, that we are allotted 70, many do not get there. But if we are to get there at 50, it means that I'm now on the downward side of the mountain. And therefore, I think we ought to try our best to love each other. Try our best to be there for each other. Try our best to provide comfort to each other. And lift each other up, as I like to say, be our brother's keeper and our sister's helper. This vitriol, this effort to attack and to demonize and to engage in this type of activity relentlessly all day, all night, it can't be good for those engaged in it. It certainly doesn't advance them one iota. And I often marvel to myself. I say, well, if bad were to befall me, you rejoice. But what good has befallen you? And the answer, no good. So oftentimes we revel in some bad thing happening to someone else. We enjoy it, we talk about it, we cackle and laugh. We go and we buy some bottles of Johnny Walker Black and we celebrate. But at the end of the day, what has that bad thing happening to him done to advance you? And so we spend far too much time, because as sure as night follows day, death awaits us all. And if we know that we have that appointment to keep, then it behooves us all to use our time wisely and sensibly, to build something, to build ourselves and our families and our communities and our island and our nation. It behooves us to be the best that we can be. And so I'm hopeful that the death of my dear second mom, as I used to call her, Lornette, and the death of so many dearly departed, that their deaths will remind us that we are here only for a moment, and that if we are sensible, we will use that moment wisely. In the words of my old beloved headmaster, teacher Ivor, a word to the wise is enough. Ladies and gentlemen, it is never easy to start our show on sad notes, but it is part of our existence, and we are a show that seeks to respond to the realities in the community. And what are those realities? Some time ago, I posted on social media that the island of Nevis had some difficult days ahead. It set off, of course, as most things I say, a maelstrom of conversation and commentary. That doesn't bother me. And many started to speculate and to, as we know, heap hyperbole upon speculation to create their own narrative. But I knew what I was talking about. And what I was talking about was that on the 2nd day of August, it was a Friday, just before the holidays, the weekend of Culturama, the final weekend of Culturama, my prominent secretary, Colin Dorr, and myself, we had a meeting with the management of Brownhill Communications, a significant employer here on the island of Nevis. Brownhill Communications advised that they employ 138 people, and that due to a change in business model and the automation, so they said, of certain functions that were being performed here in Nevis, they no longer had sufficient work for the workers in Nevis, and as a consequence, they would close their doors on the 3rd of September. Ladies and gentlemen, it was not easy news to get. Naturally, as the Premier of Nevis, at the prospect of 138 people being out of work, I immediately sought to say, what could we do? And the answer came back, there was absolutely nothing that the government could do. There was no tax break or free anything that could be given because the business model had changed. And we were told that is simply the way it is where international business is concerned. What are we to do? Leadership, you see, is not just about the good times. In fact, it is said that if times are always good, then anybody can lead. Leadership is about the difficult times and finding the resolve together to overcome those difficult times. And I knew instinctively that when I got that news on that fateful Friday afternoon that it would be a difficult time ahead for the people of Nevis. They indicated to us, the management, that they'd share this information with us, but they did not wish for any public statement to be made because they preferred to speak to their staff themselves. And once they had done so, so they indicated, that at that point we were free to comment on the matter publicly. On Sunday, the 4th of August, I convened an emergency session of the full cabinet of the Nevis Island Administration. That is the seriousness with which we saw this closure and the seriousness with which we still see this closure. And so the full cabinet came and we readied ourselves and had discussions about what our options might be. And we continued that discussion after the cabinet with the good people at Brownhill Communications, and I want to go on record to thank Permanent Secretary Colin Dorr, because he has been instrumental in those discussions. And he and I have been trying our very best to seek to see what is possible in the context of providing the most comfort that we can provide for these affected workers and their families. I am delighted that we've had in this endeavor the full support of the Cabinet of Ministers, and to them I also say thank you. As a result, it was only on Monday that Brownhill Communications finally advised that they would advise their staff of the impending closure. And they invited us, having done so, to come, and in their words, they would give us 5 minutes to say something to the staff before the staff were allowed to go to their homes. I went along with the Honorable Spencer Brand, our Minister of Labour, and Mr. Colin Dorr, our Permanent Secretary. And together we were afforded an opportunity for only 5 minutes to interact at the premises of Brownhill Communications with the staff. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an extremely difficult 5 minutes. One could only imagine 138 people just having been told that their business was closing down and they would be out of work. The anxiety, the emotion. But as Premier, I had to go and I had to demonstrate to them that they had our support. But of course, 5 minutes doesn't allow any engagement. And since that was the only time that I was allowed at the premises of Brownhill Communications, your government decided that we would convene a town hall meeting, which we did last evening at the Anglican Church Hall in Charlestown. I was very troubled when I found out that the opposition in Nevis was actually encouraging workers not to come to the town hall meeting. And I am delighted that those workers ignored such entreaties and that they came to the town hall meeting in overwhelming numbers. It was a town hall meeting which was designed for them. It was a meeting to which they and only they were invited. And I was happy that Gary Liebert, who heads our Labour Department in Nevis and who was on vacation, came out. And he has committed that despite his vacation, he will be on this and working with us closely to ensure that all matters related to Brownhill Communications and the workers there are taken care of. I'm also pleased that the Honourable Spencer Brand, as Minister of Labour, has been intricately involved in this process. And he and Gary Liebert joined me last night, together with Mr. Colin Doe, our Permanent Secretary, and other Cabinet colleagues, Mr. Stedman Truss, our Cabinet Secretary, the Honourable Eric Evelyn, our Minister. They were all there in support. And we had, by my tally, certainly well over 100 of the workers in attendance. I thought the meeting, given the circumstances, went well. It was a meeting, I think, when people were allowed to show their emotion. They were allowed to speak to their concerns and their fears, naturally. And we had with us Mrs. Karen Amry from Social Security, who came to answer questions associated with Social Security and how whatever benefits these workers would get would be treated. We were able to share with workers that in discussions with Brownhill Communications and their management team, the company has decided that workers will be paid clearly their wages up to the relevant period of September 3rd. The workers will be paid their bonuses. The workers will be paid their holiday pay. And then on the 20th of September, we are advised, they have worked out a compensation package for workers. What is that package? Workers who have worked from 1 to 7 years will get 3 months' salary in one lump sum payment on the 20th. Workers who have worked 8 to 9 years will get 4 months' salary as a lump sum payment on the 20th. Workers who have worked over 10 years will get 5 months' salary as a lump sum payment. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have gone on record to say thank you to Brownhill Communications. Thank you for their generosity, because these payments are gratuitous payments. And all that means is that they didn't have to do it. They have decided to do it, and for that we are grateful. I've also gone on record to thank them because they have been a major employer on this island now for over a decade. They are now gone. Not yet, but shortly. And so we nevertheless thank them for their service and for being a good corporate partner over the years that they were here. In addition to the payments to be made by Brownhill Communications, having heard of this impending closure, I am pleased to say that we have engaged directly with the Department and Ministry of Labour in St. Kitts, and I want to go on record to thank Permanent Secretary Bishop Ron Collins for his assistance, his support. I also want to go on record to thank Senior Minister and Minister of Labour, the Honourable Vance Amory, for his commitment and support. And we have worked very closely together. And I'm pleased that just tonight, on my way here, I was privy to a press release issued by the Department of Labour in St. Kitts, which is indicating that all severance payment owed to workers will be paid to them by early October. And so I'm very pleased for Brownhill Communications workers, if you're listening, that not only will you get a lump sum payment on the 20th of September from Brownhill Communications, you will also by early October have access to your severance payment. I am to say that severance payment, of course, is based on your length of service. And I would have outlined to workers at our town hall what they would be entitled to based on their length of service. For those, for example, who would have worked over 10 years, can look forward to as much as 6 months to 7 months worth of severance pay. And that clearly, coupled with the 5 months that they would get gratuitously from Brownhill Communications, means that some people may get as much as a full year's salary in their hand. I say that not to say that it somehow lessens the blow of losing your job, but what it does do is provides a bit of a cushion. And I continue to entreat the workers to be prudent with their money when they get it, to manage that money as they seek alternative employment. We have made a commitment in the town hall meeting last night as the government of Nevis, as a caring government which wants to demonstrate our goodwill towards these workers, knowing that this is not their fault, but they're now out of a job effective September 3rd. We have committed to them that the government will not make any deductions in terms of taxes from any payment that they get. Social Security contributions, we are told, will be 5%, up to $6,500 and nothing thereafter. The Social Services levy, we advise, is 3.5%, and the government has agreed to waive that levy so as not to put any additional burden on these workers. In addition, we know that many of the workers, perhaps half, are non-nationals. Many are fellow Caribbean brothers and sisters. And so this government has committed to work with them to ensure that there is no dislocation and that they have no difficulties in terms of their immigration or work status on the island. Our job, ladies and gentlemen, is to make sure that we take care of our people. And that is what we intend to do. And that is what we will do. I want to commend the Honorable Van Samery and Bishop Ron Collins for the alacrity with which they have responded. I want to thank them and the federal government for the speed at which it is now committed to pay the severance payment to these workers. And I want to say to the workers that this is evidence of how we have not rested on this matter but continue to work hard to ensure that you get what you're entitled to get and that you get it quickly. At the meeting yesterday, we were able to share that for some workers who are nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis, that the program, seasonal work program in Canada, is still seeking employees. And that we're told that they're seeking over 40 employees from St. Kitts and Nevis, so there's still an opportunity to apply. We also indicated that we're seeking nurses, we're seeking police officers and fire officers. That those still are opportunities which we hope people would take advantage of. We'd also indicated that at least one corporate partner has come forward already and has indicated that they would be willing to take on some workers in various areas of marketing, HR, telecommunications, and other areas for a new business that is about to start up its operations here in September. And they've indicated that they will have information available soon and they will start the interviewing process. We have also indicated and asked and reached out to the general business community to say that whoever can, we are asking you to absorb as many of these workers as possible. Lastly, I have personally pledged to handle this matter myself. And so working with the Honorable Spencer Brand and the good folks at the Labor Department and the Permanent Secretary, Colin Dorr, we are seeking to find an alternative employer, an alternative business to occupy that space at Brownhill. In order to assist us in that regard, I'm very pleased that Brownhill Communications has agreed that all the equipment, all the furniture and fittings, the kiosks, everything would be left in place. And so it will be very easy when they depart for a new provider simply to walk in and to have a ready-made contact center available to them. And so I've already engaged, and we are engaged now with other options and other possibilities. I, and people who know me know that I don't like to make announcements until I'm sure. And so we are hopeful that we will have an opportunity to come back soon to tell you more. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to touch on something which has become a little controversial. I was contacted by someone who indicated that a few Four Seasons workers had reached out to her and had said to her that somehow they thought that the workers at Brownhill Communications were getting preferential treatment from the government because they were being afforded a chance to get severance payment when the workers at Four Seasons affected by the temporary closure of Four Seasons were not afforded the chance to get severance payment. And I just want to take an opportunity to explain again, because that is all I can do. The Four Seasons situation and the situation at Brownhill Communications are fundamentally different situations. The Four Seasons indicated that they would close for the months of June, July, August, and September for purposes of refurbishing the main area of the hotel, and that they could not stay open during such heavy construction, but that they would close for that 4-month period. They indicated to us that they would reopen in October. The workers at Four Seasons clearly would be affected by that. And we're told just over 400 of their workers were affected. The Four Seasons offered those workers 25% of their usual wage, that they would continue to pay that. They said they would pay each worker 25% regardless of whether that worker found alternative employment for the 4 months. Some of those workers are in fact employed, but they're getting their salary from the employment and they're getting the 25% monthly from the Four Seasons. In addition, as a government, we said to the Four Seasons that as many of those workers as possible should be employed in the construction process. And we are advised that some have been employed in that process. In addition, the Four Seasons has advised that where they have required people for landscaping, for security, rather than hiring new people, they have opted to hire people from that pool of persons who have been laid off and brought them back for that purpose, and they too have been benefiting. Whilst they're getting their 25%, those workers continue to get full coverage and all benefits due to them from Four Seasons, including health and medical insurance. Put differently, the workers are not laid off, they're not fired, they have not lost their job. The workers are in a state, a temporary state, a 4-month situation until the hotel reopens. And most importantly, when the hotel reopens, those workers are guaranteed their jobs back. I want to stress that again. When the hotel reopens, those workers are guaranteed their jobs back. As a matter of fact, I am advised that up to now, workers have already been told that the 16th day of September is when they will report back to work, because there's a need for training and retraining that the hotel will engage in. That is why I say, ladies and gentlemen, that the two situations are fundamentally different. The people at Brownhill Communications do not have a job to go back to. Brownhill Communications is closing down for good. If we can get a new person in there, then they will have a new employer going into that space. But for now, Brownhill Communications, as of September 3rd, is closing its doors. Those workers, therefore, do not have any comfort or any hope or expectation that at some fixed date they will be going back, because Brownhill Communications will be reopening its doors at a stated date in the future. That is why I say the situations are very different. Now, what is the role of severance pay? Severance pay is not just paid. Severance pay is a matter of law. It is set out in law who is entitled to severance pay and who can claim it. In a situation where a business closes down, persons will be entitled to severance pay because the business has closed its doors, it's gone out of business. That is the scenario with Brownhill Communications. In the case of Four Seasons has not gone out of business. It has not closed its doors. It has indicated that there will be a temporary 4-month closure for it to improve and come back bigger and better. And to hold on to their staff, they have come up with an interesting scheme of paying their staff 1/4 of their regular wages, plus their other benefits to which they are entitled. And the guarantee that when they reopen, their staff will go back to work. Now, naturally, some staff at Four Seasons have said, why couldn't I just go and collect my severance pay? Let them keep their little 25%. And whilst that might have been available to some staff members if they opted to go that route, the position of the Four Seasons was that under the law, if you sever your relationship, that is, if you cut it, that's what sever means. If you tell them, listen, I am done with you, that when the hotel reopens in October and you were interested in getting back your job, you would have to reapply. That is the law. You can't collect severance pay today, and then when the hotel opens in October, you just walk back into your position. If you collect severance pay, it means that your job is no more. And so that is what Four Seasons said. And clearly, if you're forced to reapply, there could be no guarantee when the hotel reopens that you will have your job. Because maybe other people apply. Maybe they decide to choose someone else. So they said the best way to ensure that they keep you and you keep your job was for them to come up with this arrangement. Was it the best arrangement? Of course not. No one wants to be in a position where they're only earning 25% of what they used to earn. But bear in mind, the Four Seasons could have simply closed their doors, said, thank you very much, see you in October. And let everybody go and claim their severance, and then let everybody reapply. Who gets their job back? Good for them. Who lose out? Well, you lose out. Instead of that, they adopted a different approach. They said to show our commitment to our workers and to continue the relationship that we've had, what we're going to do is to pay you a fraction of your earnings, allow you to continue to keep your benefits, and then you come back to work on the 16th of September. As a government, what we did, we said the money that they're getting is already small, so there should be no deductions from it. And we spoke to Social Security and we spoke to them and said, could you also go through a similar process? So just like we're doing with Brownhill Communications and the payments that they're receiving, we did the same thing with Four Seasons workers, that the government is not taking a penny from the money that they're receiving. We went further, we wrote to the banks. And I'm pleased that whilst all the banks did not respond to me, the major banks all responded, and all responded positively. I want to thank the Bank of Nevis. I want to thank National Bank. I want to thank the Credit Union. I want to thank Scotiabank, because they all responded very positively that they will do the best that they can. In some cases, we were told that workers at Four Seasons will be charged interest only until the hotel reopens. In some cases, we were told that they would waive any payments until the hotel reopens. I want to go on record to say how appreciative we are to the banking sector for understanding and showing some empathy and some consideration to the good workers at Four Seasons. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a government that cares. It is not always possible to do everything that everyone wants because we don't have the resources to do it. But we are a government that cares. And we are a government that within the strictures in which we operate, within the confines of our financial capability, we continue to seek to do the very best that we can for our people. And I want the workers at Four Seasons to know that this government has been with them all the way. It was way back in the budget address of December of 2018 that I first sounded the alarm that Four Seasons would be closing in 6 months. And we have been working on talking to people, encouraging them, asking them to be prudent. We knew that, for example, they would have a bumper season last season, that the service charge would be, and I was subsequently told, the highest it has been in the history of the hotel, and that people therefore would be in a good position in terms of earning during the time of plenty. And knowing that a time of famine was coming, we, like the Bible of old, asked people to store up their grain so that when the time of famine came, they would have a cushion. And I believe that most people paid heed, because some of the bankers have said to me that when people were earning heavily during the festive season and the service charge was so high that some people came in and paid down more money on their mortgage or their car note. And so, if you will, they paid it forward. And I think that is demonstrative of the prudence, good sense that the people of Nevis have. I just want to continue to commit this government's support of every worker, indeed of every person on this island. That is why we say people matter most, because this is a government that is all about our people. Others have said performance matters, and we agree. Performance does matter. But at the end of the day, performance that does not benefit people is of no value to any of us. And so we said people matter most because our people have always been at the epicenter of everything that we do. And that is why I can commit to the Four Seasons workers that we shall continue to be there for them. And they ought not to feel in any way, shape, or form that the government has not treated well with them, because the two situations are different. And you cannot collect severance pay if you're not severed, if you continue to be employed. And that is just what the law provides. There's no way that you can collect that and still continue and go back to your employment when the hotel reopens. The last report we've had from the Four Seasons has said to us that their construction is on target. I received a written report from the general manager there just about 10 days ago. I am optimistic that, weather permitting, they will continue to be on schedule and that we can see a reopening of a brand new hotel come October. I'm also hopeful that the workers who have suffered, who have been out there and who have been forced to tie their belts, that come October they'll go back to a brand new hotel. They will be encouraged, they will be invigorated, and they will do their very best. I gather that the festive season that is approaching is going to be a bumper season, and so I encourage all to get themselves ready. I've also been told that our cruise season that starts soon is also expected to be a bumper season, and I'm asking the taxi drivers and others who benefit to get ready. Ladies and gentlemen, difficult times will come. Difficult times are a part of the necessary vicissitudes of life. Difficult times will always, sometimes you're home and you feel you're on top of the world and a single phone call and difficult times have come. That is the reality of the human condition. The measure of leadership is how do we handle those difficult times. And I continue to demonstrate, to remonstrate, to tell our people time and time again that this is a serious government, and serious times demand serious attention from serious people. I have heard the noise. I have seen the chatter. I am not worried about that, because we are focused on building Nevis. We are focused on moving the island forward. And where there are setbacks, I will come and I will talk to you, because you are the people who have entrusted your care, the development of the island, to me and my team. And so I've never shied away from coming to the people of Nevis, never shied away from being forthright with you. And if there's one thing that is said about me, and I hope in my leadership, is that I always came to the people of Nevis on important matters in a forthright and direct way. I well recall when we spoke about the Four Seasons in December of 2018, many said we had no call to be frightening people and telling them anything so early. But we spoke because we got the permission from Four Seasons to speak in the context of them having already informed staff, and similarly with Brownhill Communications. Once we got the green light, we spoke. And we will continue to speak and to answer questions because that is why we are here. We are ultimately servants of the people. And so despite the noise, this government continues to do the very best that it can for our people. And tonight, I believe the people who are affected from the closure of Brownhill Communications, the workers there, those from St. Kitts and Nevis, those from Dominica and Guyana and Jamaica and Haiti, that those workers should feel a sense of comfort that the government is working with them to make them as comfortable as possible. Equally, the workers at the Four Seasons, we have been there and will continue to be there. And I hope in very short order Four Seasons workers to make an announcement that I think would be of interest and of value to you. I will do that at a different time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley. Of course, we've just finished Culturama. And I must say that I was Minister of Culture for a few years. But the Honorable Eric Evelyn, in his first go-around, working with his team, Abernathy Liebert, his permanent secretary, Keith Glasgow, the entire Culturama committee, the NCDF, that they have delivered the best Culturama that we have seen in many years. I want to say kudos and congratulations to them, to all the volunteers, to all the revelers, to all the contestants, to all the band members, those who played the music, to the chaps who were the hi-fi operators and who had the stereo systems and the sound systems, to the bands from St. Kitts, to the wonderful people of St. Kitts who came out in record numbers. I want to say thank you. It was a massive Culturama. As a matter of fact, when I saw some footage of the crowds on Juve, I could not believe it. I could not believe that so many people could fit into Charlestown. And the streets were filled with people. And the miraculous thing, there were no incidents whatsoever of violence, no incidents of crime. And so let me commend the High Command, Superintendent David here in Nevis and his entire team, our Commissioner Hilroy Brandy, of course, but on the ground here in Nevis, Superintendent David and his team, the members of the military who also came. I think together they did a wonderful job. And this year, the headline was that for the 7th straight year, 7 years in a row, there has been no incident of crime during Culturama. I think all of us should feel proud that that is where we are to this day. And all of us should be proud that for 7 years, our people have conducted themselves in such a way that there's been no need for the police to get involved. I thank the police. I thank all the revelers. I thank all of those who sponsored. I thank everyone who made Culturama 45 and our second homecoming celebration a massive celebration of Nevisian culture, an explosion, if you will, of Nevisian culture. And I thank them for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a whole lot of other things that I would want to talk about. But it is quarter to the hour of 9 o'clock, and the phones are already ringing. And so, with your leave, I would open the lines now and take some calls. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to say something. I would like to hear from the workers at Brownhill Communications, if they're listening, if there are other people out there, workers at Four Seasons who may have residual concerns, or any of the citizens who are out there who want to ask a question, you're free to ask. I just want to remind the public that I try to be here every Wednesday. Oftentimes people say, I'm trying to reach you and I can't reach you. I'm not hearing you. I'm not seeing you. And I say to them that I do not believe that any leader in the Caribbean is as accessible as I try to be. I don't know of anyone else who has a regular weekly radio show. I do. I do not know of anyone else who has a Thursday open day every Thursday, I do. And I try my very best to be accessible, even to the point of introducing a monthly press conference so that the media can ask questions themselves. It is not easy, but I believe that you have chosen a leader and a team that can and will deliver. Let's go to the phones and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening, on the mark.
Good evening to you.
All right. I thought you was up here with the police them pass out today. I see Van Amory, but I wondered where you was.
No, I couldn't make it today. I couldn't make it today.
Yeah, when you could make it. But may see me husband at all.
No? Maybe he gone away.
Okay.
I understand you're celebrating a birthday. I want to wish you a happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
All right? I wish you all the best, and you definitely I have to come and see you. Maybe on Friday, okay?
Okay, God see you.
Okay. God bless you.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy your birthday.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good.
I'll tell you, I don't believe we're going on the work. Yeah.
All right. Well, no problem. I have your number. We'll talk.
Okay.
Okay. God
All
bless.
the best then.
Okay.
Thank you, and try hello too.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Happy birthday.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Wonderful. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the mark. Go ahead.
Yes, good night, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening to you.
Yes, I don't want to hear you explaining this whole thing again, you know, because I remember in December you explained the whole scenario. You explained it so many times. And I heard the opposition NRP, I think it was Tuesday afternoon, talking a lot of things that they think will give them some kind of edge, political edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what they want you to do? What do they want the leadership, your government to do? Do they want you to get milk, go to storm? I don't think so. I don't think you got any more to explain. I don't think you got any more to explain. And people must understand the difference between employment and the severance. And I think that was the best thing work out for the worker. You know, I honestly do believe so. But sometimes we tend to take the politics too far when it comes to an issue. Really don't want to hear it again. Because you're talking to sensible human beings and who don't want to understand the situation. In my opinion, they don't want to understand it. Yes.
Well, caller, thank you very much for that. Certainly, you're right. I have spoken about it on numerous occasions, in the House on more than one occasion, in press conferences. I'm on the radio here on a Wednesday. I have been talking and talking and talking, but you still get the residual views expressed by some that they feel that they were not fairly treated. And so I keep trying to explain and explain again so that people understand how the system works, how the law works, and so they have an appreciation on that. At the end of the day, you're right. People who do not want to be convinced will never be convinced. But it is still my duty to seek to put accurate information out there so that people know what the truth is and what the position is. And that is all that I can do as the leader of Nevis. Okay, caller? All right, the caller is gone. Thank you very much. The caller raises a point about the opposition. And I think people who know me know that I have always said that there's a time for everything, just as the Bible tells us. Time for everything and for every purpose. There is a time, obviously, when we will get into the politics. And, a dear friend of mine calls me the campaigner-in-chief. I believe I can campaign with the best of them. I'm not afraid of the campaign. I've never met a battle that is too hot. Never met pace bowling that is too fast. Good people say, if the man bowling fast, you either hook or you duck. Both of them are excellent postures to take, but I like to hook. So I want to be very clear that they didn't just call me the sheriff, I earned it. I became the sheriff in the sense that people expect from me a certain level of momentum. And so it is not for want of politicking. I just feel that there's no value in politicking every day when you have work to do. You have an island to run. And as the premier of the island, I have an island to govern, to take forward, to advance. And along the way, you're going to have difficulty and setbacks. I didn't, or my government didn't cause the Four Seasons to close. My government didn't cause Brownhill Communications to close. But we are the government. And whether we cause it or not, people will look to us to find solutions. And that is what we are seeking to do, as any responsible government would do. So, I hear the noise. And what is regrettable is that a lot of the noise that I'm hearing is almost as if people are rejoicing that some misfortune has befallen their fellow Nevisians. They're clapping their hands in glee. They take that. They're delighted that people are out of work because somehow they feel that if people are out of work, that those people naturally will be upset and frustrated because they're out of work. And somehow that will transform into opposition to the government because it's the government put them out of work. That seems to be the analysis that the opposition is doing. So, for example, Brownhill Communications advised us on the 2nd of August, Friday afternoon at 3:15 p.m. that they were closing their doors. They asked us to do the decent thing, which was to allow them to speak first to their staff. And so, as a responsible government, we decided to work with them on that. But that didn't stop the opposition. Nevis is a small place. We all understand information will get out. And so they went galloping to social media. And in every forum, Brownhill Communication shutting down. And then you hear the usual cacophony of sound and fury. They take that, let them take that, let me see what they're going to do now. Serious times demand serious attention from serious people. And you've elected a serious government. Not a government that tells you that everything is always going to be easy or everything is always going to be rosy, because that is not the nature of life. And anybody who tells you that is lying to you. But a government that tells you that I will work every day to make things better. That is what we're seeking to achieve. And so when I hear people up and down happy that people are out of work, happy that they have a talking point, that their fellow Nevisians are suffering, I say to myself that reason has truly fled the brutish hearts. Because that is what this is. Brutish hearts. People who couldn't care less about you, but want to use your misfortune for political mileage. That is all this is about. And so every little thing, oh, Mark Brantley knew long time and he didn't tell nobody. I have been very straightforward with the people of Nevis, and I have nothing to hide in that regard. Because if Brownhill Communications is closing down, in fact, it's better for me to tell people sooner rather than later. So it makes no sense. But it's a constant need to say something. Rather than showing empathy and understanding, not for me, because I don't need it from those people, but for the people that you say you want to serve. The very people that you are asking to elect you and put you into government. Show some empathy. Stretch your hand out and say, how can I help? Perhaps then people will look on you and say, well, that is a real leader. They see leadership. But let them take that. We're glad. That is not leadership. That is nonsense. Let's go back to the phone. 5 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock, we're taking your calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to
I'm
you.
calling on behalf of the staff and students of the Edward Walters Primary School, and we would just like to convey our sincerest condolences to the family of Miss Lornette Thompson and the passing of her. We want them to know that we are in our prayers, and we are ever grateful for everything that she would have done for us as a school, and more specifically to a lot of the students, because she was really like a mother to many, even to some of us, the teachers. And so we want to say to them tonight to just stay strong and to keep their heads and chin up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, and it's always good to pay tribute, and you are right, Lornette contributed tremendously. She worked in that kitchen for a very long time, and even after she was done, she was still a mother. I think you put it best, a mother to not only the students but the teachers as well. So thank you very much for that. I'm truly grateful, and I'm sure the family is grateful as well. Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome.
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 4 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls, of course, at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call. Now, let me go back again. And again, I am not Jesus, and so I cannot perform miracles. That is reserved for him. And Jesus, I recall, is the only figure, the only person who has ever raised the dead. And remember, of course, when he wept because his friend Lazarus had died, and then Lazarus arose from the grave. There are some in Nevis who are as Lazarus was, dead. And it appears to me that they want some Jesus figure to raise them from the grave, to say, Lazarus, come forth. Well, sadly, I can't help you, you know. And I don't think Jesus, who now sits on the throne at the right hand of the Father, I don't think he is interested in helping you either. Lazarus was his friend, and he wept at Lazarus' death. I don't know if you're his friend, but I sure know that if you are politically dead, there's not a soul going to help to raise that dead. I preface what I'm going to say with that because the NRP has selected a leader who has no seat, who has no prospect of getting a seat, who I'm told even now, because I've sent out the challenge, I say, mano a mano, I am a leader of my party. You are the leader of your party. And the federal election is coming. Put your hat in the ring. And let leader go up against leader. But I hear, no. They want to send some retiree, some social security recipient, I'm told. I'm hearing now that some youngster, just back, they're talking about sending him. And I've said the leader should not hide. The leader should come, but the leader understands that he is in the state of Lazarus, dead, and that there's no Jesus in this equation. And so he takes to the airwaves. And I want to say this, you know, because I feel proud about it. You may think that that is somehow an oxymoron. It is not. I feel proud. You know why? We got word that the person selected by the NRP to lead them, who has no seat and no prospect of a seat, that person wanted to make an address on behalf of the NRP in the heart of Culturama. Well, Culturama is a time we all know when the clowns come out. It's a time when the people are in the bands. Troops and bands are up for parade. And so I said, well, if they want to make an address, it might well have something to do with Culturama. Maybe it's a clown troupe. I don't know. And so the gentleman made the address. But you know where he made it? On NTV, Nevis Television. NTV, that belongs and is operated by the government of Nevis. Now, those of you listening, particularly those abroad, may say, so what? But I tell you, it's a big deal, you know. It's a big deal. Because when I was in opposition, and when the NRP was in government, no person, as the old people say, not one martel from CCM could appear on NTV. I well recall that at Rodney's Cuisine, Rodney told me to come there one day because she doing a little ad that she want to put on TV. And she invited me to be one of the actors in this ad. But my part was so small, it was less than a second, because the camera just passed my face and see me putting a fork up to my mouth. That was it. And when the ad was to be aired on NTV, I am told that those in charge said, unless that second of Mark Brantley with the fork is removed, that ad cannot air on NTV. I want that to sink in to our consciousness. That an ad, I wasn't even speaking, no politics, an ad for a restaurant. If Mark Brantley's face for that second is not removed, it cannot air on NTV. That was NRP in office. We had an election in 2011. And the only thing that the people of Nevis could see on NTV was NRP meetings, NRP rallies, NRP propaganda. The CCM was not afforded a single opportunity to go on television. So when I went to court, I argued that it was unconstitutional for the opposition to be excluded in that way, and that my constitutional right as a member of the opposition had been infringed. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, the court agreed with me. The NRP appealed the matter. You hear what I tell you? They appealed the matter. And the Court of Appeal agreed with me again. And so I smile because I say, look at the irony. The stone that the builder refused, the man that could not and was not allowed to be on NTV, is now the Premier of Nevis. And the fella who doesn't have a seat and has no prospect of getting a seat, who the NRP has selected to lead them, who was in government at the time and high and mighty, that nobody from CCM could come on NTV. He's now appearing on NTV in all of his flourish, speaking during Culturama, giving a speech. And I don't know whether the speech was a serious speech or a jokey speech, but he gave a speech. But let us not dwell on that, because we understand that a CCM is a different party and has a different approach to governance. And so what was is no more. But I thought to myself, at least the man could have started his speech and say, good evening. I am here on NTV and I want to thank Mark Brantley, because he's the one who went to court to ensure that today I could be on NTV. I thought you could have said that. It would have been a nice touch. But no credit. No credit for those who toiled hard so that he now could enjoy the privilege that he denied others. But let us look at what he said. He goes on NTV, and of all the things that he can talk about, he chooses to attack the people of Brownhill. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't born in Brownhill. My father is from Brownhill. I was born in Hanley's Road. But I always consider myself a Brownhillian because I moved there as a young boy. I grew up there, went to Ivor Walters, have friends there, family. And so my ear pricked up when I heard about Brownhill. Oh, Brownhill people, they get in walls as high as Fort Knox. They get in driveways as much as 50 feet. They're getting garages and matching gates. Wastage. Scandal in Brownhill. And I listened again because I said to myself, this person can't be serious. This person can't really be serious. Because this government, the CCM-led government, has had as its policy from day one that where we do road and related infrastructural projects and they interfere with anybody's property, that we seek to compensate them for that interference. So some people lost a few feet of their property. Rather than having to pay them, we say, listen, let's fix up your fence for you, we put up a wall, etc. In some cases, the people had a wall that the excavator and thing knocked down. If you knew Brownhill, you would know, for example, that by Bob's shop, there was always a wall. CCM used to have meetings there, and we stand right on top of the wall to have our meeting. By Magistrate Yasmin Clark, by the home where I grew up, my beloved Vicky of blessed memory, my mom, all of them had wall. By the Amos Chapel. So I'm trying to understand, should the government have knocked down Bobsy Wall? Poor Hyacinth is left there now for goat and sheep to walk in sheep property. Huh? Knock down the Magistrate Wall. Knock down Christine Springett Wall. Knock down Vicky Wall. Knock down the Amos Chapel Wall. And just leave them. I mean, what really is being said? And as I heard, walls as high as Fort Knox. Well, I've never been to Fort Knox. But what high wall are you talking about? Drive through Brownhill yourself, ladies and gentlemen. When you finish that, drive down Hanley's Road. When you finish that, drive up Brazier's. When you finish that, go Brick Hill. And what you'll see is the same model being used everywhere. But hear this. Mark Brantley from Brownhill. Brownhill is Mark Brantley's hometown. And so it is wrong for the people of Brownhill to benefit. All we have done in Brownhill is made people whole. Because where you trouble people's property, you have an obligation to them. That is all we have done. So I say, well, who he trying to vote on? Who is he attacking? He attacking Sandy up the hill? Can't be Sandy. Sandy's a good man. He attacking Colopi and Lizzie? Can't be them. Them are good people. Who is he attacking? He attacking the church, the mission, because we had to redo their wall too. He attacking Pastor Kelly and the Amos Chapel. He can't be attacking the magistrate, for sure. So who he say get 50 feet of driveway? Who get garage? This is the kind of nonsense, you see, that passes for politics in our island. A blatant, wanton, vitriolic attack on people. For what reason? The poor people of Brownhill has not done anything to the NRP. They have not done anything to the NRP. These are people who are there, and I am proud that I moved to Brownhill as a boy of 8 or 9. I am now a man of 50, and I am proud that it is under my watch that we are delivering a road to Brownhill. Very proud of it. Every time I drive on it, I feel good. It's smooth as a baby's bottom. Smooth. I feel good. And to see that people who aspire to leadership in this country could attack mine, they ain't say, it's me get the wall, you know. I could understand that. If you attack that, no. They say it is wrong to spend taxpayers' money on taxpayers. It's wrong to benefit the people of Brownhill. And I want Brownhill people to remember. I know they got long memories. I want them to remember and remember well. Because this is what was said. on NTV. Let me say it again, on NTV. That's what was said. And so people must start to think and consider, well, what is this? Is it bad mind? Is it grudge and envy? Or what really is it that would motivate somebody to sit down? It's a speech I'm writing. It's not like me, no. I don't have a speech. I'm just here and I'm just talking to you. But when you write a speech, you have an opportunity to write and reflect. You go, you have a coffee, you come back, you reflect some more. Maybe it was a culture armor speech, so maybe the good gentleman had had a few to drink. I don't know. But it couldn't make any sense to any sensible person. Because serious people, involved with people, who love people, don't attack an entire community for benefiting from a policy that has always existed. And so it is a matter, again, I say, for the people of Brownhill. And I will come back here with it, so you could hear it for yourself. As I said, we are now in governance mode. But when the election mode comes, you will hear. You will hear. Because I just can't understand why some people seek to go down the roads that they go down. There's no value in it. Matter of fact, if I were a good gentleman, I would come back and say, let me go back on NTV. You can come. We'll allow you to come. And this time, I think you should apologize to the people of Nevis and to the people of Brownhill more specifically. Blame it on formula. Blame it on whatever you want to blame it on. Say you had too much to drink. But I think an apology to the people of Brownhill should be forthcoming. Let me go back to the phones. It is 30 minutes after. Okay, we've lost your caller. Please call back. 469-1616, 469-1700. If you can call back in, we'd be delighted to take your call on any matter that you wish to discuss. Now let me move from that, because I can't dwell too much on, as I say, people who don't have a seat and have no prospect of getting a seat. Yesterday, I went to St. Kitts, and I was able to be a part of a press conference that the Prime Minister, in his capacity as National Minister of National Security, held. The press conference, I think, was for a very good purpose. The press conference was to update the country on the state of crime and criminality, the safety and security, and on this peace initiative that the government has been partnering with other stakeholders to try and deliver peace to our country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is no secret that we've had a problem with crime. In fact, I was reminded that in the 1993 and 1995 elections in this country, crime was a big issue. And in those days, we only had 2 and 3 murders. By 2011, we had 35 murders, which is still a record in this country. I'll come back to that. Let me take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, Mr. Brantley, there are 2 different models. There is one model where you fix roads, you dig down people wall and you leave them for the land to fall down. And there's a model where you seek to do things in order. If you take down a wall, you can't leave the people's land exposed. You put it back up. Okay. So we had one.
Can't hear you, caller. You had one what?
Situation.
Yes.
Where one administration dig down some cliffside and dig down people's land and leave it exposed to fall and crumble. Every time rain falls, stones fall in the road. And it seems to me that the administration now seeking to rectify that situation. That was left. It was an untenable situation, and now it's being rectified. This gentleman seem to have a problem with that. Order is heaven's first law. You have a problem with order. But I'm not surprised, because at the end of the day, the NRP is a situation where you have the blind leading the blind. And they chose the blind to lead them. And then want us to put them to lead Nevis people, but Nevis people are not stupid. I think we have a long road ahead of us, and we have to be prepared for it. Good evening, Mr. Bradley.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. And I'm happy, as you say, that we have a model. We have an example of what was. We have an example of what now is. And you make a salient point, because just today, to give you an idea, I got a call from the PSN Finance telling me that this government, which is already under pressure with Four Seasons closed, Brown Hill Communications closed, that we now have to find $1.5 million to pay for some land that NRP took and never paid the people. $1.5 million. And we are scratching our head now to say where we're going to find this money to deal with that. And as you say, law, do what the law requires, because they simply took people land and didn't pay for them. This CCM now has to clean that up. Let's go back to the phones. Okay, we've lost that caller. Caller, please call back 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call to be a part of the show. And so, caller, I thank you for that, because we continue to see these situations that are inherited. Bad situations which came about from poor governance. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yes, good evening to you, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening, my brother.
And good evening to the good people of Nevis. Now, Mr. Brantley, let the horses them bray, because when the time comes for them to hit the road, they ain't gonna got nothing left. I want to say to the people of Nevis, do not allow those people to derail you. Stay on track, stay on course. As the speaker came up here and spoke on the PAM convention. Stay laser focused, people of St. Kitts and Nevis, because when the bell rang, the real horse is going to be on the track. And ain't no donkey can run with horse. So if they can't go with the footman now, I don't know how they're going to be able to keep up with the horses. I want to say to you guys, don't let the people change your mind. Unity is the best way to go at this present moment in time, because we have seen our country being built in 4 years to compare with 20. No wonder they're saying that 5 is greater than 20. You know why? The government of the day has not borrowed any money from anybody yet, but our country is building, and we are seeing surplus after surplus, month after month, and we have not borrowed any money from any bank to build this country. And we are seeing projects all over by government. Projects after projects. On yesterday afternoon, the cast, the Musfield Center up at Phillips's. So people of St. Kitts and Nevis, things are happening in the country. The country is on a good path, and do not change the path. We will not go back to Egypt. We will continue forward. We are going straight forward ahead. Don't let nobody fool you. Look where you come from to where you're going. Have a good night, and God bless you. Love you, people, and let us be strong and stay laser focused. God bless you.
All right, my brother, thank you very much. It is about 20 minutes past the 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls on 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Just to pick up where I left off, is that, of course, the Prime Minister had a press conference yesterday. I was privileged to be a part of it. And at that press conference, he updated in terms of this peace initiative. Now, what is the peace initiative? It is simply an effort to reach out to those who are involved in what I would call antisocial and criminal behavior. Those who gravitated towards gangs and the like, and to seek to end the difficulty. And, for people out there who are looking on and saying, why is this even relevant, I'll tell you, not only did we have a constant news of crime and violence and constant trauma of crime and violence for the victims, of course, for their families, but even for those who are inflicting the trauma. We also had a situation where these people were afraid of each other. And as I spoke to one group of youngsters one time and told them that they're not in jail, but they are in prison because they can't even move out of their own communities. I've had situations where youngsters have come to me desperate for a job and I've provided work. But when they hear where the work is, they say, boss, I can't go over there and I can't take the job. Imagine that. That is where we had come to. And then, of course, we had the constant threat. And so the initiative was really to seek to bring these warring factions together. To say to them that the little foolishness from high school and who did what to who and who disrespect who, that those matters, let us put them behind us. And let us start to get the kind of society that we need if we're going to build St. Kitts and Nevis. And so that process started in St. Kitts. It is now continuing in Nevis. And there has been a process of confidence building. And at every report that we had in the privacy of the cabinet, the question has been raised about the guns. What about the guns? Because it's one thing to talk about peace and one thing to talk about providing opportunities for these youngsters to pursue other things with their lives. I'm told in Keon, for example, some youngsters have a farm. They're provided with some land to do farming. In other places, there are other initiatives. Those initiatives we're going to see in Nevis as well, where what we seek to do is empower youngsters. Find out, well, listen, what is your skill set? You're a good carpenter. Well, now you can do your carpentry anywhere in Nevis. You're not just stuck in your neighborhood. So the question of the guns has always been a question that has come up. And the police have been working. I want to commend very, very much Commissioner of Police, Mr. Brandy, Hilroy Brandy, who has been working assiduously on this, and his team. And the result has been that yesterday, an unprecedented thing happened. Some 30 firearms were revealed to the press as having been surrendered by members of the public, gang members as they're referred to, people who had been leading a life of crime and are now saying that they have sufficient confidence in the peace initiative that they can surrender their weapons. So are these all the weapons out there? I am sure they're not. Do people still have weapons? I'm sure they do. But I encourage them to bring those weapons in, to take them off the streets, because the truth is, if the police were to stop you tomorrow and you were to have a weapon, you'll be prosecuted and go to jail for having that weapon. So as we seek to get dividends from the peace, as we seek to continue day in, day out, night in, night out, to have that peace, as we seek to have a music festival or Culturama that is incident-free, and that becomes our new reality in the country, we start to reap real dividends. The business community feels more comfortable. People don't feel it's a big deal if they open until 1 and 2 in the morning anymore. People are not concerned that in a crowd there'll be a problem. People don't have to be afraid when they walk down the street. Boy, I look over here on the left, I see some fellas from that side and some fellas from over here, and anything could happen, because we are ushering in a period now of safety and security, of peace for all. And I think that is to be welcomed. Now, again, our people sometimes are interesting, because in response to 30 firearms coming off the street, I start to hear all kind of things. Oh, who they're trying to fool. Oh, the government pay for them. One chap suggested that the government bought the firearms and put them on display to fool people. And it went on and on and on and on. My simple point, ladies and gentlemen, is this. If 30 firearms that were on the street are now in the hands of the police and security forces, it is a good thing. These firearms were surrendered, some in Nevis, some in St. Kitts. And I think it is a good thing that our young people especially, because they were the ones most engaged in this type of activity, that they've come to a point where they realize that there's more value to life than running from rival gangs and running from the police. That they can go about, raise their children, and have fulfilling and meaningful lives. And that is what we're seeking to promote. I would think that every right-thinking member of our society would support an initiative that brings peace to our streets and peace to our communities. And that is why yesterday I said that insofar as the island of Nevis is concerned and the Premier's office is concerned, we give this initiative our fullest support because we think it's important. And we intend to engage with the young men and women in Nevis to ensure that they have meaningful work, meaningful careers, training opportunities, and that they can be put to work to help develop the country. And so I think that that is a good thing, and we continue to encourage that. So I thought that yesterday was a very good day for the country, and I congratulate all involved, including, of course, the Prime Minister's Minister of National Security. Let's go back to the phones. It is 26 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening again, Mr. Bradley.
Yes, good evening.
This has been a concern of mine for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that we emphasize academics. We push tertiary education and the vocation of it. I'm yet to see a good workshop so that the young people at an early age could be exposed to the practical side of mechanics, machine work, anything that's to do with physical. I mean, you have to know, you have to be educated to do it. But the practice part of it, we do not have adequate practice facilities here so that young people could develop skills.
Mm-hmm.
We're more in. I mean, I've done a lot of practical work here, and most of the times I end up over in St. Kitts at the sugar factory at the technical college to get machine work done, to get anything done. And people here can do it. People here can do it. Whenever I have to make any modification to any of my vehicles, I deal with that myself, and I seek help. Thanks to two Jamaicans at the Charleston Secondary. These guys are machinists. Or they have some certain skills. And when I know what I want, these guys are able to help me to get what I want. If it's a case where the lathe machine is not big enough or not long enough, we work all sorts of things out. If we can't get it done here, I end up going over to St. Kitts. We need more equipment here in the schools. For instance, there's a shop in Charleston Secondary School, and it's inadequate. I think a lot more. We need to bring that up with the academics.
Yeah, well, caller, I think that I can answer, which I hope gives you some comfort, because that is what the whole TVET trust is all about. I'm sure you would have heard, and we are hoping to launch the actual construction very shortly. There's going to be a center in Gingerland and one in Charlestown. And the idea is to put greater emphasis on vocational training to ensure that the things you're talking about, that the students and the young people have exposure. So you can decide to go an academic path, or you can decide to go a path where you become a machinist, as the case may be. We have also engaged very much with the government of Taiwan, because they have a very interesting model there where they have some schools that, in fact, are just like a college for a degree. They have a college for mechanic, or, that air conditioning, as the case may be. And we went there to visit, and, they have full mechanic shops, as you say, full machine shops, so that their students can actually get hands-on experience. It's a very interesting model, and one of the conversations I have had with them is to say to them that instead of just offering academic scholarships to study there, they should also be willing to offer scholarships for people who want to come to be a machinist or, an AC person or whatever the case may be. And I think that that is a suggestion that I believe that they have looked favorably on. So,
Yeah,
they-
Mr. Bradley,
yes.
one of the things is that we do have air conditioning mechanics here that are pretty good. That's accessible in St. Kitts. They go over there, get trained, and come back. The machine shop, you have something started here. And the woodwork shop. I mean, I remember the days when I did my woodworking course. We used to have to go over to St. Kitts to borrow tools, to come back here and do exams, and then when we finish the exams, we take them back.
But that was a long time ago, because when I did woodworking, we didn't have to borrow any tools.
Oh,
We had a woodworking shop here, and we had what we needed. But I understand what you're saying. I'm simply saying that I think some relief is coming, because the government agrees with you, and I think that it's a movement now you're seeing throughout the region, that this training in terms of TVET.
Another point I want to make, Mr. Brantley, is that I'm sure, I feel confident that if this gets a foot, you give young people something more to keep them occupied, and it would really make a difference with the crime situation. As good as it is now, as it's getting, we're going to see the difference. Guys will be able to show their skills, practice, become good at what they do. And instead of going out and doing nonsense, they'll be quite happy to show what they can do.
All right.
All right.
Okay, brother.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, thank you. But it's not just those skills as well. There are things like music. People who are doing tattoos, for example, has become very popular. There are a number of things. A barber, for example, who's very talented in cutting hair. People who are braiding hair. I mean, there are a number of different things that people can do. And I agree with you that as we develop the vocational side of things, you'll have more people being able to come into the workplace and offer those skills. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm calling somehow you have one or two guys.
I'm sorry, we're getting an echo. You have your phone, your radio on?
No, sir.
I don't understand why we're getting this echo, but go ahead.
No, I'm saying we have one or two guys around me. Some hard, loud music. Can you please tell me when you play the radio, just say it a little softer, man. Okay? Just leave it to each other. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we ask all neighbors to be considerate of each other. Normally, caller, if you have a nuisance, if your neighbor is creating a nuisance, then you can certainly call the police. If it's too loud, they don't have permission to play loud music. But as part of a society that we look out for each other, we also have to be concerned about each other's comfort. And so I agree with you. But I suggest you talk to your neighbor and see whether or not by a conversation they may not feel that they're disturbing you. So maybe you need to let them know that in fact they're disturbing you. Okay? All right, it is 25 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock, I'm sorry. We're taking your calls on 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let's go straight back to the phones and take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening.
This is Stocky calling from FDC.
What's up, my brother?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
Good, man. Good. What is happening? What's good happening with NFDC this year?
Well, I'm just calling to let our supporters know that we're kicking off our 15th annual dinner banquet on September 28th. It's a full weekend of activities. This year our theme is around the theme of cricket. The theme is cricket for the love of the game, unifying beyond the boundary. This year we have 3 powerhouse honorees in Stevenson Manners, Mr. Carlisle Powell, and former West Indian middle order all around Keith Atherton. The event will be held at the Greenbelt Holiday. Oh gosh, I forgot the Martin's Crosswind in Greenbelt this year, and tickets are for $100 until August 31st. After August 31st, they go up to $110, and after September 21st, which is a week before the event, they go to $120. No, I'm sorry, $120 at the door on that night. Tickets can be purchased at nevdc.org. That's nev-dc.org. And as usual, the event on the Saturday night is followed up with what we call a brunch, but in fact is more than a brunch because it lasts pretty much all day until the folks from New York are ready to go home. So it's a full weekend of activities, not just the event on the Saturday evening. Again, it's September 28th.
So let me add. Yes, go ahead, please. Sorry to interrupt. September 28th.
Yeah. And the hotel the hotel that we have listed is the Greenbelt, the Holiday Inn Greenbelt.
Holiday Inn Greenbelt. So will the event be at the Holiday Inn Greenbelt?
It's at Martin's Crosswind, which is about 200 feet away.
Okay.
On the same compound.
Okay.
And when you make that reservation, request the celebration rate.
Celebration rate.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me ask you. You pay. Let's say I get my ticket now, so I'm paying $100, and what do I get for my $100? Other than being with the heavyweight honorees, as you call them, what do I get for my $100?
Of course, you get to be with us that night also. You get to attend the honors banquet.
Yes.
Honors banquet, and on the Sunday there's a brunch.
Oh, so it includes the brunch.
It includes the brunch.
Oh,
the brunch
okay.
The brunch is not separate.
Okay. Okay.
The brunch isn't separate.
So you're essentially getting two events then for the price.
It's a full. You get a full weekend.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so where's the brunch going to be for those who are interested in doing both?
The brunch is going to be at Dr. Daniel's residence.
Dr. Daniel's residence. Okay, you have an address or?
That's going to be given on the evening of the event.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the annual NevDC banquet, and the second day you have a brunch, and those people who clearly come to the banquet. Now, what if I can't make it to the banquet, but I would like to come to the brunch? Is that possible?
You can do that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So the brunch is I assume a more casual affair.
Yes, the brunch is a more casual affair. It's Sunday morning.
Okay. Okay.
As long as you have a ticket, you can come to the brunch.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Stocky, good to hear you, brother. I'm sorry you weren't here for Culturama. It was a great Culturama.
I heard that.
Yes, it was great indeed. But I'm hopeful that some of us can make it up for the NevDC event. I myself have not been for a while, so I'll see how things go. And I think that the timing is actually excellent because a lot of these events usually take place right around Independence, and it's very difficult for people to travel at that time. So I think doing it at this type of, later in the month is actually a great timing. Let me ask you before you go though, do you have a guest speaker?
The guest speaker is actually going to be Mr. Stevenson Manners.
Okay, so he's an honoree and the speaker.
And the guest speaker. I'm sorry I didn't detail that.
Okay. And your honorees again for the benefit of the public?
Honorees are Mr. Stevenson Manners, and he comes in the category of commentating on the commentating side.
Yes.
Mr. Carlisle Powell, he comes in the category of administration of cricket, and we chose Mr. Keith Atherton for playing the game.
And could you just, again, before you leave, tell us what your theme is?
The theme is cricket for the love of the game, unifying beyond the boundary.
Okay.
And it's September 28th, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m.
All right, my brother, $100 get you in, you say, 110 after August 31st, 120 at the gate. I got that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Good.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, good, man. All the best.
Bye.
NevDC continues to do fantastic work. I mean, just one of those diaspora organization that really continues to contribute significantly to the life and times of Nivisians there and Nivisians at home. I particularly like these organizations because they help to sort of remind our people living in the diaspora of home, but also expose their children and grandchildren to Nevis and St. Kitts for those organizations that have a federal outlook. And so I think it's very, very helpful, very useful. And I want to congratulate Stocky, my good friend and cousin, and of course NEVDC for the excellent work that they've been doing. And so Stock, good for you to call in. I'm sure we'll talk soon. And I certainly join you in encouraging everyone to go. I know over the years that Clinton and the boys from Florida would go, and certainly Dion and Doc and those fellows from New York would also go down. Sadio and the whole team will go down from New York. So it's not a long ride to go from New York to DC. So I'm pretty sure, Stocky, that NEVDC is going to get good support, just as you guys tend to support Hearts and Hands in New York or the South Florida Association, as the case may be. So I like to see that camaraderie. I like to see that we're working together, and I want to commend NEVDC for the excellent work that they've been doing. 3 honorees, Stevenson Manners, Carlisle Powell, and of course the great Keith Otterton. Those are the ones who are going to be honored, and the theme is all about cricket. So we invite one and all to go and be a part of that. And remember that if you go to the banquet, then you also get the brunch the following day. And they said the brunch will be at Dr. Daniel. I assume that's Gilly Daniel, and that is where the brunch is going to be. So I'm sure people go out and enjoy themselves and to be a part of all that's going on there with our Nivision family in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas. Ladies and gentlemen, you listen to On the Mark. We have about maybe 18 or so minutes left. If there's anybody left out there who wants to say something, then the numbers to call are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call, and certainly if you want to be a part of the show and you want to call in, we'll certainly be delighted to hear from you. We've been talking about many things. We've been talking about the peace initiative that has yielded good peace dividends so far, and yesterday we had the unprecedented happen where 30 firearms were surrendered to the police. We're very grateful for that, and we're hoping that that momentum that will continue. As I like to say, keep the momentum. We are talking about, of course, the sad news of the closure of Brown Hill Communications and all that we're doing to cushion the impact. We're talking about Four Seasons and the Four Seasons workers, and seeking again to explain and get a better understanding for us and for the workers of what their rights are and what the position is. We're talking, of course, about Culturama and what a tremendous success it was. I should also say that Carifesta is happening, and that Nevis is sending a small contingent, I think just over a dozen people going from Nevis to Carifesta. I want to go on record to say, ladies and gentlemen, that when the idea of Nevis participating in Carifesta this year came up, that there was certainly a sentiment that we could not afford to send anyone this year. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat things. It has been tough. We have been forced to tie our belts and try to do as much as we can with the little that we have. And so what we sought to do was to say that Carifesta, it wasn't a must in the sense that, it is one of those things you do if you can afford to go, and if you can't afford to go, well, you leave it alone. And so there were some of us certainly who thought, well, maybe we should leave it alone this year. I must commend Minister Eric Evelyn, because he came with a budget, and I said to him, we couldn't manage that size of budget. And he said, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to work on it. And he did, and he came back with a revised budget, much less, and we were able to work with that, and were able to pay our way for our performers and our team. So they're getting airfare paid for, they're getting hotel, and we're not putting our people in any pamby-namby place. They're not in a guest house or something. They're at the Radisson, if you please. And with that comes their breakfast. And in addition, we've given them a stipend that they can use, of course, to defray any other cost of lunch or whatever that they may have. And so we have tried to do the very best that we could do in the very difficult guava crop season that we're currently in Nevis. And I think that they ought to go and to really acquit themselves well and be good ambassadors for the island of Nevis as part of the cohort that is going from St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm told that in some of the other islands like Anguilla, I gather that the people who are going from Anguilla had to pay their own airfare, but the Anguillan government is paying for the hotel. So here I'm happy that we were able to cut a little here and cut a little there and get a budget that was a bit more manageable for the NIA in this difficult time. But even so, we were able to pay for airfare, pay for hotel and breakfast, good quality hotel, I might add, the Radisson, for our team, and certainly to afford a small stipend to them as well. So, you know, my view is all of this is, at the end of the day, our effort in difficult times to show our commitment to culture and our commitment to our performers. And I hope, as I said, that they will go there and they will acquit themselves well. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about 14 minutes left. I am at a stage where if you can call in, you should, because we do not have a lot of time left. I know a lot of people leave it until the last minute and then we run out of time. If you have the inclination to call and you have something to say, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers if you want to be a part of the show. We have had this show now for many years. I think the last tally we said 13 years. And so it has certainly been a show that has had some longevity. And that longevity could not have been possible were it not, of course, for you, the callers, but it also could not have been possible were it not for Daniel Brantley, the law firm that I have been associated with, and the law firm that has sponsored this show from its very inception and continues 13 years later to pay that bill every single month. That is why we have been able to have this show commercial free, because we've had a sponsor all of these years. And I want to thank them and thank Von Radio for this incredible opportunity that we've had. I think a lot of times people take things for granted. People see it and they say, oh, that's simple or that's silly. Truth is that a lot goes into it. It comes at a cost. And there are people who are prepared to pay that cost in order to do our small part for freedom of speech and freedom of expression and the building of our democracy in a very tangible way. And so I want to thank Daniel Brantley. And while I'm on that about Daniel Brantley, I think the whole world now knows that there was a tragic fire there on the 31st of July. What caused the fire? Well, we are not sure, we don't know, but certainly the fire did a considerable amount of damage. We had a very expensive library, and it's all been destroyed. And the entire office, as we know, which is an old office, an ancient office, one that was owned by our national hero, the Right Excellent and Right Honorable Sir Simeon Daniel, and it now, of course, is burnt out in parts. Very sad day on my part, particularly for the workers, because I think we had 8 or so people who work in that building, in that space, and who earn a living to pay their bills and handle their family business from that space. And so, you know, even with that, the irony was that, again, it came to me that so many people were rejoicing. In fact, it was sad for me to hear one young man call me to say that he was in a conversation, and the person who sounded the alarm about the fire, who had come through town and seen some smoke and had the good sense to alert the police and the fire services. And so the fire did a lot of damage, but nevertheless it was contained. That person was being crucified because somebody said he should have allowed the building to burn to the ground. And I shook my head, because I said, how much more are we going to do in the name of politics? Really. That building burning to the ground, right next door to the north is Buddy's Restaurant, a building that has just been restored at great expense by a young couple who are making their way in the world of business. Right next door to that fire is a large cylinder of fuel, propane, for that restaurant. On the other side to the south, there is a Chinese restaurant and equally large tanks of propane for the Chinese restaurant. And so, had that good citizen not seen the smoke and alerted the authorities, and had the authorities not responded in a timely and professional manner as they did, I hope that people recognize that a significant part of Charlestown could have burnt to the ground. I want to say that again. Had that good citizen not responded when he saw the smoke and reported the matter to the police and the fire services, and had the fire services and police not responded with the alacrity and professionalism that they did, I want the people of Nevis to understand that a significant part of our beloved Charlestown could have burnt to the ground. So when people are rejoicing and saying that this good citizen was wrong to say anything to the authorities, I want them to understand that it is not only the building that houses Daniel Brantley. It seemed to me that people thought it was my building. Well, it's not. It's not only the building that houses Daniel Brantley, but also the other buildings in the area. What if, God forbid, one of those propane tanks had caught fire and exploded? I mean, sometimes there are people recognize what it is they're wishing for. You have businesses there. You have some people who sit there selling. You have a bar there, Phoebe. You have business body on the other side, lots of businesses on the. Then you have Solomon Arcade just above. I mean, the reality, ladies and gentlemen, is that anything could have happened. And that is why I'm grateful. I've thanked this individual privately. I thank them now publicly for being a good citizen and being vigilant and seeing something and saying something. Because I think in so doing they probably saved Charlestown. And as to the cause of the fire, as I said, God knows. And once He knows, He will sort it out. And that is as much as I will say on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 minutes left, and it appears nobody will call, so I will speak to you for the 6 minutes. And just to say to you that it has been for me a real privilege to be on this show. It has been for me a real opportunity. And you know, as I reflect, I remember that Webo gave me a chance. In fact, it was Carl Claxton who had introduced me. And Webo gave me a chance on the heavyweights when I was but a boy. And I came on the heavyweights, and having been here with the big boys for a while, it was decided that I would do my own show. And so On the Mark was born. And it has been a staple ever since. It has been a forum for discussion, a forum for debate, and most importantly, a forum to hear from you and to hear your views. Let's go back to the phones then and hear this view. Good evening, caller. You're On the Mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley. This is Dumpling.
How are you, my dear?
Study them. Don't study them. Keep your head high. My mother used to say, and my grandmother, when people try to bring you down and they come to you, don't straight no cock up the man's hand. Let it go with the guy, you know. So you don't study them. God is good to you. This is Dumpling, eh? And I love you back. Don't study them.
Thank you, darling.
Okay.
It's good to hear your voice. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. God bless you. You know, that's... And Dumpling, I'm glad you called. You know why? Because sometimes I think that when there's a constant stream of negativity, where otherwise sensible people say and do foolish things, that there's a tendency to get disheartened. And I'm reminded all the time that the vast majority of our people are good and decent people. Vast majority. That people would send you a little prayer, send you a little note of encouragement. Sometimes you don't even know them, and they tell you, I don't know you, but I'm praying for you. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
You can't stop talking with your boring speech.
Well, now you're on. Give us something exciting. Okay? Well, I guess you didn't have anything exciting to add, so you've gone. Okay? Thank you for your contribution. So as I was saying, sometimes, a little word of encouragement, a little note, you get a little WhatsApp, and you realize that the vast majority of people. I was home the other day, and, the news of the Brownhill Communications was out, and the NRP was jumping in glee and happy that the business was closing down, and, let Mark Brantley deal with that. And, I'm there sitting, and I confess I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sleep at all. Up and going through my mind, looking for options, looking for solutions. And I got up very early, probably around minutes to 5. And I decided to have a morning coffee. And a lady called me. And she said, I just want you to know I'm praying for you. And, it's interesting because I said to myself, well, how did she know that I was in that frame of mind where her praying for me, her words of encouragement would mean so much? But she called and she said, I was on her heart and on her mind, and she prayed for me that night, and she had to call the morning to let me know that she was praying for me. And I thought it was simply marvelous. And that is what the goodness in our people does. That is what we are capable of. And that is why sometimes, as I say, ignore the noise. It's hard to do sometimes, don't get me wrong. Sometimes when somebody cuss you and abuse you, you have the temptation to cuss them back. Because a lot of people who are making the most noise in Nevis and have all the answers, they could tell you all about how to create employment, how to generate investment. But you're asking, where you working? And you tell your boy, may had a job in 20 years. Them not working 20 years, but they know how to generate work, how to generate employment. And they are authorities on everything when they have accomplished nothing in their lives. But each of us have our story. Desiderata says even the ignorant, the dull and the ignorant have their story. And so, what is one to do? Sometimes you want to remind people of their own failings when they seek to point out yours. But you leave it alone. Because God is good. And through His grace and His mercy, we will survive. To the people at Brownhill Communications, to those at Four Seasons, to those out there, we are with you. We will work with you. And I assure you that together we will overcome these challenges. The band has struck up. It means it's time to go. I want to wish you all the very best. I want to thank you for being with me tonight on our first show back after Culturama 45. For those of our contingent going to Trinidad for Carry Fest, I wish you a safe and enjoyable time, and that you be good ambassadors for your island and for your country. That's our show. Good night. God bless you. And tune in again tomorrow at 1 p.m. for a rebroadcast of this On The Mark show, our first after the Culturama. Thank you. Good night.